Premier Zhou Enlai, on behalf of the government of the People's Republic of China, has extended an invitation to President Nixon to visit China.
It was a presidential announcement that surprised everyone. In late 1971, President Richard Nixon, the conservative anti-communist, went live on television and declared he would travel to China to seek peace and mutual recognition. But behind the scenes, there had been 2 years of preparations. Then, National Security Advisor Henry Kissinger had met with Chinese Premier Zhou Enlai, using a trip to Pakistan as a cover to travel to China. The US increasingly bogged down in Vietnam and wanting more leverage against the Soviet Union, saw potential détente with Beijing as a possible solution. China wanted diplomatic recognition from Washington, which withheld it after the end of the Chinese Civil War and the founding of the People's Republic in 1949. Beijing also considered engagement as a way to limit the impact of US containment strategies in the Asia-Pacific. In words that still resonate today, President Nixon's speech on departing for China summed up the purpose of the historic visit.
What we must do is to find a way to see that we can have differences without being enemies in war.
From the first handshake with Premier Zhou, things moved quickly and perhaps more smoothly than both sides may have expected. Within hours of landing, Nixon was called to see Chairman Mao, and their 65-minute freewheeling discussions touched on history, philosophy, and the problems of the Cold War in Asia. The US delegation were then plunged into a whirlwind of talks, banquets, and hospitality, with visits to many Chinese cultural sites, including the historic visit to the Great Wall, where impromptu remarks by President Nixon about the greatness of Chinese civilization warmed the hearts of over 860 million people.
I think that you would have to conclude that this is a great wall and that it had to be built by a great people, and a people who have this kind of a past must also have a great future.
The negotiations were full and frank, as they say in diplomatic circles. 9 meetings in 6 days. The result was the Shanghai Communique, a list of areas of agreement but also disagreements. Ensuring that both nations would not seek to dominate the Asia-Pacific, the communique also affirmed the One China principle and the US commitment to draw down forces in Taiwan.
That communique will make headlines around the world tomorrow.
It also committed to withdrawing troops from Vietnam. But perhaps most importantly, it was a commitment of how the US and the People's Republic would treat each other in the future, with mutual respect, the principle of non-interference, and respect for sovereignty. A hotline between the two nations was also established for the first time. The cultural aspects of this visit were also highly important. 50 years on, archival film of the meeting showed President Nixon truly charmed by what he saw in China. First Lady Pat Nixon, too. Millions of Americans saw these scenes. And while formal diplomatic recognition would have to wait until the end of the decade, under a new US president and Chinese leader, it was, as Nixon himself said, the week that changed the world. Nathan King, CGTN, Washington.